Yeah, and that's an important point to consider. I mean, if prices continue to go up and appreciate, it's hard not to argue that Ethereum won't flip Bitcoin, at some point in the next few years, because this is a technology play. It's got the smart contracts play. No one's taking anything away from Bitcoin as an incredible asset play. It's digital gold, Kaiser, yuan, it's all good. But if you don't innovate over the course of, like I said, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, it'd be very hard for anybody to argue that, it isn't going to flip and these other blockchains aren't going to be more valuable. And like you said, then you get into a tricky situation where you're still holding on to your old baseball cards, and yeah, they're worth a lot of money, but they're not doing anything. And so they're not part of the capital markets. And so, yes, people will always hold some of it in their portfolio, like Grandpa holds some of his portfolio in gold, but it's not necessarily that money that's really growing and working.
Yeah. On the Ethereum side, right? Like last time when a lot of people were talking about Ethereum potentially flipping Bitcoin, this was in 2017. At that time, I was fairly in the camp that no, it's not going to happen. Ethereum, there were too many question marks on the technology of Ethereum. Can it deliver? And interestingly, in 2017 was the year when a lot of really sophisticated engineers and computer scientists started moving into crypto, right? And a bunch of them have gone into Ethereum. Like I can, like for example, Gunther decided to start Avalanche, right? But Ed Felton, who's a Princeton professor, he built a Ethereum L2 Arbitrum, right? So they're really sophisticated computer scientists. Some of them actually went into the Ethereum ecosystem. Some of them like Silvio Micali started a separate blockchain system. But it is no longer the case where, back in 2016, 2017, sometimes I'd feel that, there aren't a lot of sophisticated engineers in that ecosystem. Can they really actually build these consensus algorithms and scale it out and so on? No longer the case. I think they have a lot of really good talent. They're shipping, right? And interestingly, the productive asset versus non-productive asset thing is much more pronounced now, right? Back in 2017, it was a theoretical idea. Now people can actually see that, look, if anything, they're coming after these scarce quality of Bitcoin, right? They're saying that Ethereum now actually burns gas fees. So Ethereum is going to start becoming more scarce. These are real things. They have real economic implications. If there is a lot of demand for Ethereum and the supply of Ethereum is going down, you can just do basic supply and demand calculation to be like, no, this thing might actually become more valuable, right? I think I'm at that point now where I don't think I would take the bet that Ethereum would flip Bitcoin, but I am definitely at a place where it's a possibility, right? And I think this is something that any Bitcoiner that is actually trying to seek the truth and not sitting in their own thought bubble, I think they should just logically come to that conclusion that yes, like this is a possibility, and there are very hard data behind it. And in many ways, I feel like sometimes the Bitcoin community would have a very negative reaction to this idea of you need to innovate, because they take it to mean that we need to change Bitcoin. And I think that is something that I want to make very clear, that I've spent enough time in the Bitcoin community to know that that's never going to fly. Like people are not going to start messing around with Bitcoin and trying to change that. B, it's actually not a very good technical thing to do anyway. Bitcoin is elegant as a simple base layer. So whenever I say that you need to innovate, I'm asking for zero changes from Bitcoin. Like you need to do nothing different at the Bitcoin layer. What I'm talking about is more things like Lightning, right? Lightning has a ton of support in the Bitcoin ecosystem because they think that Lightning doesn't require changes to Bitcoin. Lightning just adds more value to Bitcoin. More things like Lightning, more use cases, more applications, more developers. I think it's very hard to argue that if the number of developers who are building in the Bitcoin ecosystem goes up, that's a bad thing for Bitcoin. I think like it would be very hard to argue that that's a bad thing for Bitcoin. Or if there are tons of applications around Bitcoin, like that's a bad thing for Bitcoin. That's the only thing I'm pushing for, that we need more developers, we need more applications, and we as a community need to be supportive of developers, of people who are entrepreneurs who are coming and trying to build new businesses around Bitcoin, instead of really pushing them away to other ecosystems.